Welcome to Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks. He's Andy Behrens, he's Sal Vetri, I'm Jason Fitz. Week 4, we are already almost a quarter of the way through the NFL season. A quarter of a season that so far has felt like madness. It has felt like pandemonium. And tonight, gentlemen, we get a Thursday night matchup for the ages. Let me ask you, Andy Behrens, when I say Cowboys Giants, and we think great rivalries, did you get like the different feels? Does this one hit different because it's Cowboys Giants on a Thursday night?
Yeah, a little bit. You can kind of hear you can hear John Madden in your head. You can hear Summerall in your head. Yeah, I like this rivalry. I like a classic NFC East rivalry, even though I have no horse in this race specifically. But this is a fun one.
Al Michaels tonight will call his 20th Cowboys-Giants game. I don't know if we care about announcers. I just think that's a fun fact. Sal, are you feeling good? Like, we're coming into week 4. Each week I kind of get the gauge of where you guys are. The first 3 weeks were a little tough on most of us. How are we feeling coming into week 4? Are we Wizard of Oz, like traveling down the yellow brick road? Feeling good?
Yeah, I feel like week 4 is kind of the, maybe not prove it week, but just you kind of know where your teams stand. Like right before the bye weeks, do I have to start trading away players? Am I a 3-0 team and I'm feeling good at this point? You know where you're at and you know if you have to start wheeling and dealing or not. So that's where I'm kind of feeling. I'm kind of in the process of doing a couple of trades right now.
This feels like the week that everybody falls in love with their fantasy teams because they start to realize that their real teams are going to disappoint them. We won't disappoint you. Hashtag AskFFL. That's how you guys get in the conversation. You can also throw some questions into the YouTube chat. We will be all over it, getting you all the lineup advice you need because we are getting ready for Thursday Night Football. Let's show you the information you need to know about the game tonight. Dallas taking on the Giants. Both teams with a losing record. The Cowboys favored by 5.5. The over-under on this 45. Usually here, I would tell you the big injury news we have, but amazingly for the second straight week, we don't really have any injury news going into Thursday Night Football. So for all of the conversation of Thursday Night Football and player health and safety, seems like everybody feels ready to go tonight. So with that being said, let's get to players to watch. Andy Behrens, somebody that you've got your eyes on in this game that will make an impact.
Yeah, Fitz, there are 43 individual NFL players right now who have already rushed for over 100 yards, and none of them play for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is led in rushing by Rico Dowdle with a pretty modest 88 yards. He started each of the last 2 games. He's out-carrying, out-gaining, and out-snapping Zeke Elliott on the year. Now, part of the reason for the Cowboys' non-existent run game is the way these past 2 games have played out. They got stomped 2 weeks ago by the Saints, and then they got buried early last week as well. But this team now ranks 30th in rushing, which is doing no favors for Dak Prescott, for whom everything is made more difficult than it needs to be. This is the spot where Dallas can actually debut its run game in 2024. And if it can't happen here, it's maybe never going to happen. They don't get to face their own run defense, unfortunately, but the Giants' run defense pretty bad as well. They've allowed over 130 rushing yards per game, 5 yards per carry on the season. We don't expect Dallas to fall behind by like 3 quick scores in this one, although crazier stuff has happened. So the run should remain in play for that team all day. I am playing Rico Dowdle this week, Fitz, and I am cautiously optimistic I can get RB2 numbers here.
I spent all offseason yelling that, hey, you only got to replace 61 yards a game. That's all Pollard averaged last year for the Cowboys. That's easy to do. Turns out it looks like it wasn't that easy to replace the running back position. All right, I'll give you a player to watch, and this isn't some rocket science. Like, we can't make this complicated. Malik Nabers is a superstar. Early on in this thing, Malik Nabers is a superstar. Go back and watch some of the catches that he's had over the course of the season. And I think the most impressive part of it is that he's not open. The ball isn't being thrown to him in a particularly beautiful spot. He's simply making plays. And when we want to talk about guys that you can rely on in fantasy football, sometimes we, rightfully so, get so worked up about the quarterback conversation and the weapons around the receivers that we forget that some receivers can absolutely make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. That's what Malik Nabers has done throughout the course of the season. That's what he's going to have to do tonight for the Giants to have a chance in this game. He has become a safety valve for Daniel Jones already, only a few games into this thing. So I think Malik Nabers continues that trend. Sal Vetri, who do you have your eye on tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Giants' backfield here, and their workhorse running back, because that's what he is right now, in Devin Singletary. He's coming off of a game where he saw 100 total yards, finds the end zone, has 20 total touches. Everything's great. Playing 70% of the snaps this year. That's the guy in the preseason, in training camp, that they said, yeah, this is our guy. Brian Dable brought him in free agency. He was there with him with the Bills for 3 seasons. He trusts Devin Singletary. And so far this season, he's playing really well, handling 75% of the backfield carries. Overall right now, in terms of breaking tackles, second in the NFL. And he's coming into a great matchup. The Cowboys right now are giving up the most rushing yards per play, 5.4 in the NFL. Also the most rushing yards per game. Because of that, teams are just running all over them. We've seen it with Alvin Kamara. We saw it last week with Derrick Henry, 170 total yards, multiple touchdowns. And it's a short week. Like, I don't think Dallas has the personnel right now to fix this, but you can say, okay, maybe the scheme can get there. They can move some things around. But with just Tuesday and Wednesday to practice, I'm skeptical. So I'm watching tonight, Devin Singletary.
That's such a, by the way, kids, I've seen where the rest of the show's going to go. If it is your goal to take a shot every time we say the name Devin Singletary, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's not going to work out for you. I'm not sure if this is the Devin Singletary show or if this is the Cowboys defense can't stop the run show. But either way, there's going to be a lot of that conversation. And Sal makes a very important point about the short week here. Like, if you're any of these teams, you've had a walkthrough and 1 practice. You cannot tell me that you can fix everything that's wrong with the run defense with a walkthrough and 1 practice. That being said, with that in mind, let's go to bring the props. And I have a sneaking suspicion, since Sal is 2 of these correct and Andy and I have brought none of them, that maybe we should just, I don't know, piggyback on this. And I'm going to. The over on rushing attempts for Devin Singletary, I thought was kind of staggeringly low. 14.5 is the number you can get it at. To me, pretty easy to look at this and say there is a path to winning. I can see him getting 14.5 carries before the end of the 3rd quarter. Like, this is going to be an important part of the game plan, because let's remember, Baltimore ran the ball 45 times out of 60 plays. I think the Giants look at that and say, hey, we don't have to make this complicated. We just got to give him the ball, and he's going to continue to run the ball on them. Even if they stop it in the 1st quarter, I don't trust the Cowboys to stop it for 4. So I think Singletary gets a bunch of carries. Sal, give me a Singletary prop you like, since we're all over Singletary right now.
Yeah, I think mine correlates nicely with yours, assuming that yours hits here. I'm going to go with Devin Singletary under 3 receptions. Look, if Singletary's running the ball a lot, like we've already mentioned, I think that's just going to naturally lead to less targets. And actually last week, pretty quietly, the 5th-round rookie of the Giants, the running back, Tyron Tracy, he saw an increase in usage. He played 100% of the 2-minute offense. He played on the far majority of the obvious passing down situations. I mean, if indeed the way that Vegas is seeing this 5.5, 6-point spread, the Giants are underdogs, if that ends up playing out late in the game and they have to go into passing mode, it could be Tyron Tracy on the field, at least in some of those situations, or more than people expect. Last week, Tracy ran 14 routes to 18 for Devin Singletary, and I don't think that's baked into the line right now. So either one way, it's going to go to the carries, and if it doesn't and it goes the other way, there's still an out if Tracy's on the field more, so I'm taking the under here.
It's a couple Singletary props. Now, Andy Behrens, let's be honest here for a second. FFL is in its 19th season, 19 years of this show. You've been covering fantasy football for 73 years, unconfirmed. That's just what people say. It's taken you this many weeks to get a kicker prop, and I thought it would happen right away. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I've been extremely disciplined, I think, but I can't buy a win in this segment. And in uncertain financial times, we put our money in the safest place it can go, and that is kicker props. So give me Brandon Aubrey over 7.5 points. He literally has in the stadium range, Fitz. He has the best range in the game right now. We just saw him kick a 66-yarder. They say they're comfortable with him out to 70. He's 15 for 15 over the past 2 seasons on kicks over 50 yards. Against a vulnerable Giants defense, we're getting multiple field goal attempts here. We're getting multiple touchdowns from the Cowboys, and that gets us comfortably beyond 7.5 points. He's cleared this number 14 times in 20 career games, and it's about to happen again. And by the way, I reserve the right to continue taking kicker props rest of season if I need to.
Look, the way my bank account looks, I'm going to start taking kicker. Like, I don't care how we get the wins. Let's just get the wins. And also, looking at all the pictures we found of Brandon Aubrey to show you, it's amazing how solid his arm form is. Like, whether it's the arm to the side or the arm up, like, he's got really good, like, it's almost like dancer form out of here. Like, I'm in love with this pick. If this works, though, all year long now, every time producer Dan comes in and says no kicker props, that's not going to happen. Okay, so we might be already tired of kicker props. Let's use that as inspiration to get to enough already. Storylines that you cannot take any more of. Andy Behrens, for many reasons, I'm going to let you go off first here on a storyline you are just done hearing.
Yeah, listen, I am calling for a moratorium on all these scorching takes on Caleb Williams and on all the Caleb Williams related player comparisons. I will remind you that we are 3 games into his professional career, and that is definitely not the point at which we make firm determinations about players and where they sit in the league hierarchy. I can promise you that Chicago is not collectively pining away for Justin Fields, no matter what national folks want us to believe. Justin Fields would definitely not be 3-0 right now behind this offensive line and with this run game. We are also not having a Trubisky-Mahomes discussion, as, again, some national voices might like us to, because number one, it's been 3 games. And number two, Caleb actually made some wow throws last week while passing for 363 yards. He also missed a couple of shots. He threw a bad pick because he's 22 years old and it was game 3. This week he gets a Rams defense that's allowed 9.8 yards per attempt on the season, 7 passing touchdowns, plus he gets Keenan Allen back. There is a really good chance that I will be able to lift my moratorium next week because Caleb is going to shut everyone up.
Which would include me, by the way. I just got to throw myself under the bus here. I love Caleb. I've been strong on loving Caleb. I may or may not have said on Inside Coverage this week on Yahoo Sports that the Bears should fire the entire coaching staff and bench Caleb, not because he's not going to be great, but because I just don't think they're helping some of the habits of the player, and I don't believe in the coaching staff. So I will just gladly look. If I'm going to spew hot takes, I'm also going to eat the crow with him. I hope, for your sake, I'm eating crow, but I still stand by it. I'd fire the entire coaching staff and just put somebody around him that's an adult in the room. Okay. All right, now that I got my hot take out, Sal, give me something that you are just saying enough of already.
Yeah, I took this another way in terms of a player that I've had enough of already in fantasy through just 3 weeks, and I'm going to the Kansas City Chiefs and Xavier Worthy. This was a guy in the preseason, in training camp. I was promised deep passing from the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes is going back to MVP form. He's going to throw 50 touchdowns, and Xavier Worthy's 4.2 speed is the answer. Well, through 3 games, we haven't had it. First game of the season, 2 touchdowns, 1 on a broken play. Didn't have a ton of usage, but the explosive plays were there, so I got a little hopeful. Since then, it hasn't looked good, and I'm concerned for Xavier Worthy. I think his fit right now is awkward in this offense based on how defenses are playing the Chiefs. Similar to last year, 2 high safeties, forcing them to throw underneath and run the ball. You're getting a lot of Rashee Rice. You're getting 17 rush attempts last week from an undrafted rookie in Carson Steele. And we don't even have Travis Kelce involved in this offense yet. That's probably coming at some point, and the target share gets squeezed even more for Xavier Worthy. So right now, I've had enough of it. Even last week, we saw Juju Smith-Schuster taking snaps away from him. So at this point, I'm trying to sell him where I can.
Yeah, this is why you never talk your talk after week 1, which I should remember, and I definitely did for having Xavier Worthy in my league. So,
oh yeah, me too.
My bad. I hear that all the time. All right, let's get some help from everybody. It's time to make your pick. You guys have submitted some questions to us. We're going to get some of them in here and see if we can't help you with the hashtag AskFFL. Keep them coming. We start with Storm Davis coming in, which is just a badass name. Storm Davis can start 2 of these 3. Singletary, Deontay, Juwan Jennings, Ask FFL. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, really difficult to sit a guy who just delivered 175 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I think I'm going to do it. I want Singletary tonight, obviously. He's the featured runner for the Giants, and they're facing the worst run defense in the league. And I think I want Deontay Johnson. He looked pretty frisky last week. That was a great game. Did miss a practice this week, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a concern for this weekend. He gets to face that Bengals defense that just gave up a monster day to Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin.
I don't remember Deontay's game at all. It's just a total blank for me. I can't imagine why. All right, let's go to the next question coming from Doug. I'll be your Doug. Is it safe to leave Etienne and Hubbard on the bench when I have Achane, Bijan, and McLaurin at the flex? What are there, 3 people in your league? Sal, what do you think here?
Yeah, overall, I think it's fine to do so. But if I had to choose here, I would actually be starting Chuba Hubbard over Terry McLaurin this week. Look, you're getting Hubbard this year averaging 5.6 yards per touch. And the biggest thing is he's running behind a quality offensive line, which was not the case last year for Carolina when he was running behind there. They invested in their guard position this offseason. They get Damian Lewis. They get Robert Hunt. And so far this season, both in pass and run protection, it's working really well. Hubbard's coming off of a 150-plus yard game. He looked nice in that game, both as a rusher and a receiver out of the backfield, and he's going to get at least 1 more start before Jonathan Brooks comes back. That's going to be against the Bengals, who allow the 7th most rushing yards per game. So I'm starting Hubbard this week. He's a top 12 running back for me.
All right, let's get one more in here from Sebastian Hernandez, who says, who should I start? Darnell Mooney, Quentin Johnston, Bucky Irving, or George Pickens? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, first of all, I want to compliment Sebastian on the way you're working the wire here. I like all these guys for different reasons and at different levels. Bucky Irving looked about as good as any running back in the league last week, but I'm taking George Pickens here. He is by far the safest option. He is probably the highest upside option here. Gets to face a Colts defense that's been extremely generous. Mentioned the big week that Caleb Williams just had statistically. That came against the Colts. So I want Pickens here for sure.
All right, we got a YouTube question coming in from Michael Delgado. Let's get that one in. A couple of these here. It says, full point PPR, I have to fill a running back and flex spot. Do I start JSN, Connor, or Singletary? Sal, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Connor there in this situation. I think Connor had a bad week last week. It's a perfect bounce back spot. In my opinion, he's facing a bottom 5 run defense. And this is a guy that's commanding nearly 80% of his backfield carries right now. Running all the routes is there as well. 0 routes run for his backup Trey Benson last week. So I'll go with Connor.
All right, and we get one more coming in from Ronnie Santana. Hope I'm saying that right, Ronnie. Should I start D Jones tonight or Love? He's a game time decision in Superflex. Hurts is my QB1. Other option is Levis and start likely or Ertz. That's a lot, Andy. What do you got for us?
That is a lot. I think I would go Ertz over likely. Relatively friendly matchup for him, and he's just, he's getting peppered with targets. I feel better about his reception total in that one. And man, Daniel Jones over Jordan Love. I think I would hold out hope for Jordan Love. And I like Daniel Jones' situation generally a lot more than I did, a year ago, certainly, because he's got Malik Neighbors. He's got a superstar receiver. He's got somebody who absolutely can't be stopped. He is still Daniel Jones. I think I want Jordan Love, and if I can't, at least you have a pivot. It's Will Levis, but at least you have a pivot.
All right, now let's get to some injury news. You mentioned working the waiver wire. Everybody's had to do it here. Let's take a look at the weekend injury reports coming out of practices. Some notable injuries. We'll sort of take this a little as we go. Let's start with tight end. We got Trey McBride, concussion, wasn't spotted to practice. George Kittle, hamstring, returned to practice, limited. And then Sam Laporta with the ankle, didn't practice today. Has an extra day with the Monday Night Football game. Andy, since you have been our Sam Laporta apologist over the course of the last couple of years, does any of this continue to sort of change the way you feel about Laporta's value?
Oh, man. Thank you, by the way, to the producers for not putting TJ Hawkinson on there and making it an entirely Iowa injury board. Yeah, this is not good, right? Like, he was clearly compromised last week. Not practicing to begin this week, not a great sign. I think based on simply the fact that he actually re-entered the game last week, I think there's a good chance he's going to go on Monday night. Still, I don't think you can trust him. If I had virtually any waiver wire option, a couple that we just took in questions, if I had Zach Ertz, I'd probably just go ahead and play Zach Ertz because I don't think we're going to get clarity on this by Saturday.
All right, let's take a look at some wide receiver injuries. I feel like the Eagles just don't have anybody. Smith out with a concussion, not seen on the field Thursday. Neither was A.J. Brown. Jordan Addison limited on the ankle. Tank Dell, chest injury. And then Deebo Samuel returned to practice today, but still on the list with the calf injury. Sal, is there a spot here where with everything going on the 49ers, do you just avoid them entirely?
I think if Deebo ends up playing, that you start him and you feel good about it. I don't think they want to rush him back. They said it would be a week-to-week thing. He's only missed one game, so I'm still expecting him to miss another game. But the fact that he went from did not practice to limited heading into this week is trending in the right direction. We had somebody ask earlier about Juwan Jennings. If Deebo is back, Juwan Jennings, in my opinion, goes back to being third, fourth option, especially if Kittle's able to get back into this offense. So right now, trending in the right direction for Deebo. The Friday injury report will tell all.
I feel like I'm doing a ShamWow commercial because I can say, but wait, there's more. We've got another list of injuries for you. Bijan with the shoulder, late edition, limited on Thursday. Joe Mixon with the ankle, still not practicing. Justin Herbert didn't practice today. And then Jordan Love with the knee. But LaFleur says he could be a game time decision. Obviously, we do a show on Sundays. You should be checking out from noon to 1. We'll keep you updated on it. But Andy Behrens, when you hear game time decision with Jordan Love, with what we see with Malik Willis, how do you handle any of this?
I feel pretty good about Jordan Love, actually, just because he returned to practice actually last week, right? So he's been getting work in, obviously couldn't go last week. Masterclass in coaching from LaFleur these past 2 weeks with Malik Willis at the controls. But I'd be a little bit surprised if he didn't really push to come back against the Vikings. This is a huge game. You let the Vikings get out to a 4-0 start and all of a sudden you're 2-2. That's not a great place to be. So I'd be a little bit surprised if we don't see Jordan Love this week. I'm feeling good about it. I will say, with regard to that injury board. A little bit concerned about Bijan Robinson because I believe he did not have an injury designation on Wednesday, and he picked one up on Thursday. That's really a good sign.
All right, we'll keep you updated on that. Again, Sunday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. We're right back here with FFL. We'll get you updated on the latest as we get into the games on Sunday. In the meantime, let's turn to our fantasy game changers for this week, powered by Ram Trucks, where we're identifying some of the most impactful players on one of the top fantasy matchups of the schedule. We look at Lambeau right now. We decided to take on the NFC North tilt with the 3-0 Vikings, 2-1 Packers. Green Bay favored by 2.5. The over-under on this one, 43.5. As we look at that matchup, all right, Andy, give me somebody that you identify as a fantasy game changer powered by Ram Trucks.
Yeah, listen, Jayden Reed has pretty clearly established himself as the most fantasy relevant Packers receiver. Even if we haven't seen a normal Packers game quite yet, and we haven't, Reed has operated primarily from the slot. He's run the second most routes on the team, also has 5 rushing attempts on the season, at least 1 in every game. He earns targets as a receiver, and they manufacture opportunities for him as a ball carrier. We love that. Let's remember also that he opened the season with 171 scrimmage yards and 2 scores against the Eagles. Reed has that sort of upside in any given week with Jordan Love behind center. And again, it's beginning to look good for Love in week 4. We cannot leave Reed on fantasy benches in this matchup. He's too valuable as sort of the easy button against this Brian Flores defense.
All right, I love that pick by you. I'm going to go with the running back, and not the running back you think. I think this is a bit of a statement opportunity for Josh Jacobs. When you look at the way that the Green Bay Packers are forced to run the ball right now with Malik, a lot of that has come back to Josh Jacobs and his ability. Even with Jordan Love in, it's been a bit of an awakening to see how good Jacobs can be. Something obviously I saw for years as a Raiders fan. But when you look at his ability to turn negative and make it positive, he is a bit of a saver when it comes to the run game for Green Bay. They have learned to lean on him. A couple of weeks ago, I know it was a huge matchup. They didn't need him the same way against Tennessee to get that win. I think in a game where, frankly, they want to run the ball, they want to control the clock, they want to control the line of scrimmage, they want to control the variables, Josh Jacobs has a big game here. Feels like he's a game changer no matter what. Sal, who do you have your eye on?
I'm going to the other backfield here for the Vikings, and it's Aaron Jones against his former team. Maybe a revenge spot, kind of ended sour their relationship a little bit. And Jones this year, maybe he's been unlocked, I want to say. He's coming off of a game where he saw 24 touches, something we rarely saw him do with the Green Bay Packers. He already has 2 top 12 finishes in fantasy at the running back position. And also this guy right now, depending on where you look, if you're looking at efficiency per touch, broken tackles, explosive runs, he's up there in the top 10 in all those metrics. He looks like a young man right now, and the injury concerns we had this offseason aren't there. And I like the matchup here. He's being schemed into the offense, not only obviously as a rusher, but also in the receiving game. We saw that last week. He was split outside as a receiver, caught a touchdown. And in this matchup against the Packers, you look back at week 1 against Saquon Barkley, a similar dual threat running back. He was able to dominate these linebackers on the ground to the outside thanks to his speed, and in the receiving game, I think Aaron Jones can do similar things in week 4.
All right, let's get to some bold predictions. And by the way, I want to toot my own horn here because on the Sunday show, I think my bold prediction was that Jaden Daniels would have a big breakout game. I'm just saying it happened. All right, Sal, give us a bold fantasy prediction for week 4.
Yeah, my bold prediction is that Tee Higgins, for the second time in his last 18 career games, will go for 100 yards and a touchdown this week. He returned from injury last week. There was questions. Coming back from a hamstring, is he going to be limited in that game? Not at all. 90% of the snaps, runs 95% of the routes for the Bengals, and sees 6 targets. Actually looked good out there as well. Was making a couple of impressive catches, but Jamar Chase stole the show, as he does a good amount of times. 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, but that performance isn't going to happen every single time. Tee Higgins came back. He has another nice matchup this week against the Bengals, who allow the 8th most receiving yards per play. And not only that, the Bengals offense, or the Panthers offense, looked good last week. And that's going to be a situation where we could see a shootout here. So I like Tee Higgins for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, I like that call by you a lot. I'll give you a bold prediction. Anthony Richardson, the bubble's about to pop for fantasy owners, and it's not popping in a good way. Like, this is about to be one of those weeks where everybody freaks out. And I think this is just a reminder of where Anthony's been and where Anthony's going, right? Like last year, he didn't get the game reps he needed. I've talked a lot about that. So what does he look like this year? Looks a lot like the quarterback he was if you watched him in college at Florida. Like he'll have a great throw and then a terrible throw. He'll miss something wide open and then he'll hit something you didn't think he could do. But it's interesting. They're just not utilizing him the same way in the running game so far. And they're about to take on a Pittsburgh defense that is really stinking good. I think this is a struggle bus week for Anthony Richardson, and as a result, everybody's going to freak out. And once they freak out, all of a sudden, everybody's going to send him to the bench and be like, look, Anthony Richardson was not drafted to be great in fantasy in week 4, week 5, week 6 of this year. He was drafted to eventually be a great quarterback. I just think we need to start applying the level of patience we gave Josh Allen to what we apply when we look at Anthony Richardson, and fantasy owners are going to hate that when he struggles against Pittsburgh. Andy, give me your bold fantasy prediction.
Yeah, is it bold to say that Travis Kelce will double his full season fantasy output in this week's game against the Chargers? It would seem bold under normal circumstances, but he only has 8 catches and 69 yards so far on the year, which is not great. I can tell you that Kelce is getting open, that he doesn't appear to be dust at this point. He was wide stinking open in the back of the end zone when they had that tackle eligible play a couple weeks ago. He is getting free. He's just reached that age where every time he has a 3 for 30 game or something like it, everybody is like, oh, is that it? Is he done? He must be done. I don't think he's done just yet. Also, the Chargers are going to be without Derwin James this week. They're going to be likely without Joey Bosa. This is a good situation for him. He has a zillion yards against the Chargers over the course of his career. It's a comfortable spot. I also think it's a get-right spot for Kelce, again, against a familiar opponent.
How many fantasy points would a zillion yards actually net? I need somebody to look that up. We'll have the answer for you next week. All right, this is where I huddle everybody up. I remind everybody that John Candy's in the stands watching us, and we do the 2-minute drill. It's a Super Bowl reference. Look it up, kids. The first question coming in, Dak Prescott tonight or Patrick Mahomes Sunday? Ask FFL. Sal, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Dak Prescott here over Mahomes. I think that the Cowboys at least have a little bit more of these zone beaters. I think the matchup is better as opposed to Mahomes, who just has to nickel and dime his way down the field. And if it's not an efficient drive, you're not ending in a touchdown pass, which is really the only way Mahomes is getting there right now.
That was a lot of information. Well done by you. The next question comes from, I don't know, is this WY or Y or we? Bucky Irving or Rico D, full PPR. What do you think, Andy?
Oh man, this is a good question, and I would love for this to be the week that Bucky Irving leapfrogs Rachaad White in that backfield. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I feel really confident that this is the week for Rico Dowdle for the reasons that we mentioned earlier. It's a great matchup for him. I'm going to start him here.
Next up, we've got Jeff, but it's spelled sophisticated, saying Metcalf or Neighbors. What do you think, Sal?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Neighbors here. I mean, you don't have a bad option either way. I don't think you're going to make a mistake starting either of these guys. But Neighbors leading the NFL right now in targets, and you're talking about a matchup where they're 6-point underdogs, the Giants, tonight. It could easily be another 10 to 12 plus target game. That might even be the floor at this point for Malik Neighbors.
All right, we got Mark coming up next, and Mark must have been listening to me because this is a solid question. Mark says, should I play Daniel Jones tonight over Richardson? Andy Behrens, what do you think? Are we going to fight?
Yeah, no, we're not going to fight. This is a tough one because my ranks may not say it, but I am completely willing to look the other way if you just want to start Daniel Jones tonight. Number one, Daniel Jones is throwing to an actual verifiable superstar in Malik Neighbors, so there's opportunity there. And Richardson, man, he looked a little lost against the Bears defense. Missed a lot of throws.
Man, I just heard Andy say I was right about Neighbors and Richardson. God, this is a good day. Justin Grant says Goddard or Ferguson. Sal, what do you think?
I think there's 2 ways you can go with this. One's a strategy, one's just a straight answer. The straight answer is start Dallas Goedert. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are not trending to play. But if you have a quick 10 to 15 minutes to start Jake Ferguson and then trade Dallas Goedert right now off of his big week, you have 2 great tight ends. Might as well sell high on Goddard. But if you don't want to trade, start Goddard.
Man, that is like a masterclass right there from Sal. That is amazing. Eric comes in, Singletary or Higgins or Pickens. Oh my, full PPR. What do you think, Andy? You better have an answer as good as Sal's.
Yeah, listen, that was graduate level stuff from Sal. I don't think I can give you that one here. I'm probably going to sit Singletary here in full PPR. This comes down to the format. Sal made a great case for Tee Higgins. I'm still going to go with George Pickens. Again, super friendly matchup against the Colts, and he is where the ball goes in that offense.
All right, our next one comes up as we get the next question coming up from us is, let's see, here we go. It's Ziu. I don't know how to say this name. Nico Collins for Drake London and DJ Moore. Oh, that's a trade question, Sal. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Just on first look, this looks like as fair of a trade as you can get. If I had to choose a side here, I'll take Nico Collins. I think he's a top 10 overall player the rest of the season, and I think you're making out with the best player in the overall deal, assuming you have depth to replace both those receivers.
Sal's not only good looking, he's a trade master. There we go. We'll get one more in here coming from Crossfader Chris, who says, with Mixon out, should I start Akers or go with Carson Steele, the best name in all of football? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, we should say that I don't believe that Joe Mixon is officially out, but he hasn't practiced yet this week. Friday will probably tell the tale on Joe Mixon. Oh man, I'm probably gonna go Carson Steele here. If this were my team, my choice, I just couldn't do it with Akers. It's a great matchup. Wasn't great last week for him though.
If I had told everybody back in August we'd be answering questions about Carson Steele in week 4. God, who could have predicted it? What I can predict is that tonight's going to be a heck of a night. Don't forget, Sunday, we are back from noon to 1. We give you a full hour with all of the breaking news and all of the info you need on your fantasy team just as it's happening. He's Andy Behrens. He's Sal Vetri. I'm Jason Fitz. We genuinely appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy Thursday night, and thanks for watching Fantasy Football Live, presented by Ram Trucks.